Hey guys, it's Jonathan Bocher here from PlayGuitar.com. Today I've got 10 very common chord progressions for you that are tons of fun to play on the guitar. So we're going to go through those in just a second, but before we do that, I'm going to cover some theory because you got to know your guitar theory. And turns out, a tiny bit of theory really helps explain chord progressions a lot better. So the first thing for you to understand is that in the major scale, and by the way, I know this is super brief here, but you can learn a lot more about how we approach music in this way by going to PlayGuitar.com and look up my Unlocking 145 lesson. It really explains this in detail. But the basic concept here is that we have the key of G, G major, and we're going to give each of the notes in that key relate to a chord, and we're going to give each of those chords or notes a number. Okay, so we start with G because that's the first chord in that key. So we got G major is our 1. Okay, and this applies to every key, but today we're only going to look at G. So we got G major is our 1 chord, A minor is our 2 chord, B minor is our 3 chord, C major is our 4 chord, D major is the 5 chord, and E minor is the 6 chord. Okay, those are all the chords that we're going to use today. And as we go through the progression, I might play some variations of some of the chords, but the basic idea is the same, right? You can throw in your own variations however you want to. Okay, so that's the concept. We've got our chord numbers. And so as I relate to these, I might say, okay, this is a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression. What I mean by that is it's 1, G, and then D, which is the 5, and then 6 is E minor, and 4 is the C, right? So that's how we relate the numbers to the chords. And again, I go through that in a lot more detail in the Unlocking 145 lesson, but that's kind of like the bare minimum that you need to know so that we can zip through these today, okay? So let's look at the very top. The first chord progression that I chose is quite simple. It's just 1, 4, 5, and then go back to the 1 chord, right? So it sounds a little bit like this. And through all of these, don't worry about the strumming or the rhythm. That part is really wide open, right? You can just take a look at the chords and try to think of a new way that you can strum them. Perhaps you wait twice as long on one of the chords and speed up a couple of the other changes, or you change the strumming, or you add in picking, or whatever it is that you want to do. Increase the tempo, slow it down. That's what makes these things so versatile. You'll find that these progressions that I'm going to show you here have been used in literally thousands and thousands and thousands of songs. But that doesn't mean they're old. The next 10,000 songs are going to be written using these same progressions, right? So these are the progressions that we have to work with, and many more besides. I just kind of want to get your brain thinking in these directions a little bit and see what kind of fun you can have. All right, so number 1, 1, 4, 5. So there I just went 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, and came back to the 1. All right, how about we change that up slightly and we go 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. All right, now you see I'm starting to throw in some little rifferonis there for you. That was number 2. Number 3, let's look at 1, 5, 6, 4. I think this is the progression that Axis of Awesome kind of looked into and discovered that, hey, there's like 100 top 40 songs that have used exactly the same progression. So it just gives you an idea, in different keys, of course. That's what, maybe I skipped that part, but this is why I explained everything to you in terms of numbers initially, because when you've got numbers, now it's very easy to switch to the key of A. For instance, if I've got G, C, and D in the key of G, that's 1, 4, 5. If I want to move 1, 4, 5 to the key of A, then I just go A, D, and E. And I don't have time to walk you through how you find that, but once you've got it in numbers, it's very quick and easy to apply to different keys. So 1, 5, 6, 4. All right, we resolve back onto the 1 chord. Let's change that up ever so slightly and go 1, 6, 5, 4. So that's G, E minor, D, and C. You can see there I'm changing up, changing the length of the progression a little bit. All of this is totally random, like in terms of how I'm strumming it. I don't have a preconceived idea of what I'm going to strum for each of these ones, but just to kind of help drive home that point a little bit, that you can really change things up however you want to. So next one here, number 5, is going to be 1, 6, 3. So that was 1, 6, 3, and then I did kind of toss in a little 1, 5, 6, 3 there for you briefly as well, using the 5 as the D, but I just wanted to use that F sharp passing note going down to the E minor. So thought I'd throw in a D slash F sharp there just for fun. But again, just to demonstrate how you can really change things up on the fly as you go. All right, number 6. Let's go 1, 6, 2, 5. So this is G, E minor, A minor, and D. Alrighty, and 1, 3, 4, 5 this time. So that's G, B minor, C, D. Playing it a couple different ways for you. Let's go 1, 3, 6, 4, our number 8. Now one thing you can do is you can, pair these chord progressions up together. You don't have to play them, these are just ideas and little snippets even really. You might come up, build a 12 bar and use 3 or 4 of these different progressions, or 2 of them, or just one. You can cycle it over. Don't get caught into a rut of saying this is the one thing I got to play, right? The beauty of this is that it's totally flexible. Music is totally flexible. So there's your 1, 3, 6, 4. This one's pretty cool. What were those numbers? That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 1, A minor, so G, A minor, B minor, C major, and D major. And of course, you hear that it wants to resolve back onto the G major. This last chord progression changes things up a little bit. Keep in mind, these are not ranked in any particular order by popularity or anything like that. They're simply just 10 chord progressions that you can use, and but all the other ones that I've showed you, all the other 9, start on the 1 chord, which is G. This one is going to start on the 4 chord, which is C. And I wanted to throw that one in there just to show that, hey, you don't have to start on the 1 chord. You can mix things up a little bit. So it goes like this: 4, 5, 1, 6. have it. And again, we resolve back to the G, not to the C, which is the first chord in the progression, right? But it doesn't have to do with the first chord in the progression. It has to do with the tonic of the key, which is G major. So even if you start there, if you're in the key, chances are your song's going to want to resolve on the same chord as the key, the G major in this case. So there you have it. There's 10 very common popular chord progressions for the guitar. Have some fun with it. Play around with those. Don't get caught on these ones that I showed you, but use them for ideas and just come up with your own chord progressions and just take those 6 chords that I taught you at the beginning, G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, and literally, you know, you could, if you wanted to, write the numbers on pieces of paper, throw them in a hat, and take them out, because literally they're going to sound good in any order that you place them in. Hey, you might find some cool combinations. So have some fun with that. It's Jonathan Bocher here from PlayGuitar.com. And as I mentioned, the 145 lesson, Unlocking 145, explains how to approach this from a musical theory standpoint in a lot more detail. And you can check that out on PlayGuitar.com. And this is Jonathan signing off. We'll see you next time.